Hey boys and girls, happy June to you all. Hopefully you are all excited to have somewhat of a normal summer, because I know I certainly am. But anyway, this week I want to talk about 4 things that I am seeing in the real estate industry in 2021 that could be a huge issue. And this week I want to talk about those 4 things so that hopefully you can keep yourself out of trouble, because there's a lot of liability when it comes to buying and selling real estate, especially in this market. But before we dive into any of that, I'm Chris Nelson with Genstone Realty, and this channel is all about real estate advice, tips, and tech. So if any of that excites you, you are in the right place. But do me a favor, drop me a comment, consider subscribing, hit that thumbs up, and mash that bell so that you're notified when your boy posts new content. So as I mentioned, there are tons of different things that I'm seeing in the real estate industry that are causing some disruption. But today I just want to talk about 4 of those things. And these 4 things don't necessarily tie into each other. They're just 4 things that I've noticed in either my everyday routine or when I'm having conversations with clients. And the first problem is a problem that I have seen become more and more a problem over the last few years. But in 2021, I am seeing it happen more and more. And that is, contracts are being delivered and signed without being explained or read. Now, we all know that real estate is one of the largest purchases or sales that some people will make in their entire lifetime. But the amount of liability that comes with buying and selling a home is through the roof. Now, this doesn't only apply to buyers, but it also applies to sellers, and it also applies to the realtors and their brokers affiliated with the transaction. Now, I know that homes are selling extremely fast, and we all want to make sure that we are getting our offer presented to the seller. And I know technology makes all of these things easy between DocuSign and dotloop and the laundry list of other platforms that are out there that allow for you to sign documents electronically. Although they are great at saving time, they are also counterproductive and very disastrous if you are not taking the time to explain the contracts to your client, or if the contracts aren't being explained to you, at least you're taking the time to read them. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not the guy who likes to sit back and read 14 pages of a legal contract in which a lot of the language may be foreign to me. However, I would like for someone, especially if I'm putting my trust in a realtor, to at least explain what it is that I'm signing. They may not have to go over it verbatim, but make sure that you are at least having someone go over each one of those sections with you and have them explained. And the same thing goes for a seller, especially when we're accepting offers that are not contingent upon inspections or appraisals, and we don't know when the deposit is due or if the deposit has even been received. These are a lot of things that can create some liability. So do yourself a favor, realtors, buyers, sellers, and anyone involved in a transaction, make sure that you are taking the time to either explain or take the time to understand what it is you're signing. Another big issue that I'm seeing right now is that sellers are accepting offers and they're not giving themselves enough time in the transaction to give themselves some time to actually find a home. Right now, I'm seeing a lot of transactions that are closing in 30 days or less. And well, if you know how hectic this market is, I've said it several times, it's near impossible for buyers to get their offer accepted the first go round unless they're making a really, really strong cash offer and they have gone and relaxed or waived most of the contingencies. But if you are selling a home, more than likely you're going to have a home sale contingency for your offer, and the next house you're going to buy, the seller may look at that and not really be willing to negotiate with you if there are other offers for them to consider. So make sure, if you are a seller, that you are looking at the contract and making sure that you are speaking with your realtor, talking about your search criteria and how much time you should anticipate or allot for when you become a buyer, and make sure that you're factoring that in to the offers that you're accepting, because there's a lot of collateral damage that can come when an offer has to be extended. You never know if the buyer has given their landlord the notice that they're going to be moving. And there's also things like rate lock expirations and other things that could be disastrous if you need to extend a settlement. But a week or 2 usually won't rock the boat too much, but 30 days, 45 days could actually cause a lot of issues, and it may even cost you the entire transaction. So sellers, make sure that you are thinking about how much time you are going to need to find the place you're going to. And since we're on sellers, the third thing I'm seeing right now is that simply because the market is hot, sellers are picking almost any number out of the sky and saying, that's what I'm selling my house for. There is no thought process behind the condition of the home or anything to that extent. I was in a home yesterday that was easily $70,000 overpriced because of its condition. And during the open house, well, I think a lot of people felt the same way, and I am pretty certain that house will be on the market for at least a few weeks before that seller does a price reduction, having to bring the price down to something a little bit more realistic. Now, although this happens in pretty much any market, I have never seen it happen as much as I'm seeing it happen today. And overpricing a home is counterproductive for everyone. It's gonna cost the seller more time on the market, and as those prices come down in a market where most buyers are thinking homes are selling within a day or two, they're gonna start to wonder what's wrong with the property. And they may not initially realize that you just listed the property too high. They're gonna look at the days on market and assume that there is another story behind all of that. So sellers, please do me a favor. Although the market is hot and you want to make as much money as you possibly can, please put your trust in the experts and let us guide you into what should be an ideal list price. And the last thing that I want to discuss today is the lack of appraisals. Now, don't get me wrong. I want to watch my words here because as a listing agent, I do cringe, and at times I am on pins and needles until we receive the appraisal, knowing that everything is on the up and up. However, in this market, where I see the issue is that we are artificially driving the market up. It is no longer about what the house is worth. A lot of times in this market, it boils down to how much is the house worth to me? And what is happening is, because so many people are waiving appraisals, when a property does go under contract and it is subject to an appraisal, the appraiser on that transaction is going to look at all the sales in the neighborhood. And if the neighbor's home sold for $40,000 over the what would have been appraised amount, but since there was no appraisal, well, that is going to be considered a comparable. And we are pushing the values of these properties through the roof. We are almost pricing ourselves out of housing. So although sellers, I know you want to sell your home, as I previously mentioned, and get top dollar, and buyers, I know that you are desperately looking to find a place to lay your head at night. If anything, I know this video is not going to change the world, but please note and approach with caution, because the lack of appraisals is not helping the real estate industry at all. So there you have it, folks. There are the 4 things that I wanted to share with you that I see as a huge issue when it comes to real estate in 2021. But do me a favor, share your thoughts. Have you recently bought or sold a property? Did you accept a contract or write a contract that didn't have an appraisal? Did you sign an offer or maybe even accept an offer that you didn't read or didn't have someone explain the terms to you? And if so, no worries. You're not alone. What I am hopeful for is that this does not become the norm. So with all of that being said, thank you for checking in this week for this episode of Just the Tip Tuesday with Chris. Do me a favor, check in next week. Until then, take care.